Stu, I gotta say, let's just get this out the way. While I enjoy doing the show, drinking all this beer is physically making me ill. My affliction is Ben. My malady is a man. And I think it's all because I've left the straw in my bottle too long again. I just hope it's not another case of toxic hop syndrome. Welcome to the Loggerlogs Point of View with Tom and Stu and somebody else. I'm Tom, he's Stu. Say hello, Stu.
Hello.
Stu is here.
Sorry, that was very squeaky of me.
That was a little bit squeaky. Do you want to do that again? Do you want to oil you up and then give that another go?
I was like that awkward teenager from The Simpsons.
That was a extremely good impression. Yeah, guys, so tonight, as I alluded to, we have a mystery guest who will be revealed very soon. You probably already know because you've read the show post, you've read the social media. So, do you know what? I'll try and get there as quickly as possible.
Is this like Masked Singer? Can you shouting, take it off! Take it off!
Take them kegs off. Tonight, continuing with our swinging theme of the season thus far. Man, all these car keys have really bruised my pears. We'll be welcoming on a special guest in just a moment. But before that, I'd like to properly introduce, aside from the postie, the other man in my life, Mr. Stuart Sutherland. How are you, my friend?
Good. I'm baffled and speechless with your introductions.
Why?
Every week.
Why would you? Why?
You manage to excite and fear me. Keep me coming back for more.
You're terrified right now.
Oh, the drink is just to take the edge off, so I can just actually have a conversation with you. I can't do this straight.
Driven you to drink. We should really start recording this. Then I think it'd make a great podcast. Yes, alongside my canny co-host, we have a very special guest / volunteer / prisoner this evening. It's YouTuber, me tuber, everybody's tuber, the Crumby Beard. How are you, pal?
Good evening, gentlemen. I'm very well, thank you. How are you both?
Not doing too bad. Now that we've started, now that the party has begun, I'm doing really well. Thank you for asking. It's great to have you here. Finally, join us for this very special episode tonight. I mean, every episode is special, but this one is just a pinch more special. As we have at least 33.3% more facial hair this episode than we normally do. So thank you for being here and contributing to that. As we pair up classic and craft this episode once again with two offerings from the very top of England, the long-awaited, much-demanded Sexy Stones Bitter and Northern Monk's DDHIPA, okay, Transient. So let's do it, guys. First brew of this evening. And keeping with how we usually get down on the logs, we're going to roll with the lighter of our pairing tonight, and that is Stones Bitter. There we go.
Shout out to your dad.
Shout out to Tony. We finally did it. We made it, Pa. We finally made it. We're going to review this bad boy in your honor.
Just do a spit take, one swig.
Now be respectful.
I was slightly worried. I reckon this is the cheapest cost per can of a beer I've bought in quite some time.
Oh, really? Where did you manage to track it down?
So it was in a Home Bargains, and I reckon it was about around £3 for 4 cans, maybe even less.
Yeah,
amazing.
It's much the same.
Talk about value for money. So, Stu, I'm pretty certain you've had one of these beers tonight. What about the other?
I've only had the Stones. That sounds like I'm talking about my masculinity. I do have the Stones, but no, this 4-pack, I have been working my way through it in anticipation for this episode. So this is the last 10.
You cheated, you bastard. You cheated. I wanted your, the surprise on your face as you, as you kind of open it and those initial reactions. I feel cheated, Stu. You better fake this one really good. And you, the bearded one, how familiar are you with our duo tonight?
Well, as you probably tell by what I said a minute ago, the Stones Bitter, not at all. Never tried it.
Oh, okay.
I do like bitter in general, so I'm not too concerned. But there's always a question over how cheaply something can be made, so it'll be interesting. The Transient I have had before once, and I I can't remember if I reviewed it or not, but it was the best part of a year ago. So it'll be a good revisiting on that one.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about the Northern Monk stuff, and I've never tried it myself, so I'm looking forward to giving this one a go. But less about that, more stones. I'm cracking this bad boy open. Let's do it, squad.
Great.
Ooh, that sounded good. That sounded really good. That wasn't in stereo. That was in 3. What's that? What's 3
Surround sound.
channels? Surround sound. Yeah.
Tri-band.
3.1.
How many other people across the United Kingdom are cracking open stones right now? Was it just us 3?
Probably 4.
Wait, is your dad in on the call as well?
He'll be joining just after that first initial taste.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's your dad.
Smells beautiful.
Yeah.
Doesn't smell bad at all, actually.
Dribbling already. Cheers. Good, man. Cheers, lads.
Cheers.
So it just tastes like banana bread. It's awfully weird.
Do you know what? Yeah, it has got that kind of fruity bready, kind of subtle fruity breadiness to it, which I really like. I always find it quite light for a bitter as well. Like it's definitely lagery, but that might be because it's not a draft can, so you don't really get that kind of foaminess as you would with a lot of the other tin bitters. What do you think, Crummy? What's the initial thoughts?
It's a little thin, like you said. I think it is not. It's not just the can. The beer itself is a touch thinner than most. But again, ABV and price, that's probably not a surprise. It's really bready, much more than most British bitters. It's got weirdly a few traits that I would associate more with something from Germany. I'm not quite pinned down what, but it's that malt profile is. Don't get me wrong. It's not going to beat a fine German beer, but it has tips of the hat.
Yeah.
In that direction.
Yeah.
But followed by a bit of a slightly naffly hopped finish to it. But it's not. I want to say naff. I mean cheap. Not necessarily it tastes bad because it doesn't. It's not horrendous at all.
No, I think you're right about that. Definitely. Right, while you lads enjoy that, I'm just going to fill in the lovely people a little bit about this particular brewski. You can edit that one out, Stu, or you can keep that in, however you're feeling at the time.
You blew it right into the microphone.
So, Stones, bitter, Sheffield's most famous export, just behind Steel and the Human League. Stands at a thrilling 3.7% and was first brewed in 1948 by William Stones. Although described locally as a religion, it didn't reach the rest of England until the late 70s, and in the early 1980s, as demand grew, the beer was produced at Bass's Runcorn Brewery, although this was stopped after drinkers complained of headaches from the poorly manufactured beer, which had been brewed at a higher temperature, increasing the amount of hangover-inducing fusel oils in the beer. During the 80s, it was subject to a huge television campaign starring boys from the Black Stuff alumni Bernard Hill and Michael Angelis. And from 1986 to 1995 was the official sponsor of the Rugby Football League Championship. By 1992, Stones was the highest selling bitter in the UK. But sadly, as the years have gone by, as Crummy alluded to, the ABV has dropped significantly to reduce the impact of beer duty, like a lot of beers have, sadly. But on a more positive note, cask conditioned Stones bitter returned to pubs in 2021. Thank the Lord. Come on, guys. Let's celebrate. Let's celebrate, guys.
Round of applause.
Pour one out.
Beautiful. For the what? Dead homies? Or the guys that got poisoned during the 80s drinking that oily beer. Right, let's dive straight into our first topic of this evening, and that's last beers watched. Stu, do you want to take that first, or do you want to give that gift to give that honor to our guest?
Yes, let's pass it to our guest because I've left my beer of discussion downstairs.
Okay, while you run downstairs, Crummy, how has your week in beer been?
My week in beer. The problem with doing anything heavily beer based and trying to put out a lot of beer-related stuff is you end up forgetting what you drank 3 days ago because it all turns around very quickly.
Just check your YouTube.
Yeah, I did
time.
consider it. I did consider it. So we'll go through what I can remember in reverse order because it will be easier. Yesterday, local brewery to me, Blue Monkey Brewery, one of my favourites, certainly my favourite local, has been for a long time. Re-brewed their Imperial Stout, which is called. This is bad of me because I've already forgotten. Right, I have remembered. It's called Silverback. So it's an impy stout. They brewed it a few years ago, but they've not done it for a while. And I mean, it's a straight up impy, so it's not. There's no adjuncts in it. It's just proper. I say proper because people get offended when you call adjunct beers not proper because they are. But you know what I mean. It's traditional, few ingredients, done to a silly strength. And the most impressive thing is, and I can't think of another brewery that does it, although I'm sure someone does. It's a 10.5% impy in a 500ml bottle.
Ooh, okay. Wow.
which is
Jeez.
So I reviewed that and then went to sleep, as you can imagine.
Lethal.
No one ever remembers the bottom of the bottle.
No, indeed not. But that was very good. Back into last week, I went into a tiny tap room by another local brewery, Totally Brewed. They have what I reckon is probably certainly the smallest pub in Nottinghamshire. I think there's 4 tables in it, but actually they put out some of the best beer around. They tend to have a collection of their own stuff, which is always great, but also one guest tap, certainly one high-end guest tap, which is normally a very high ABV Euro import. But I couldn't tell you what it was because by that point I may have had too many. But going back from that this is one I'll finish on. About a week ago, I reviewed the most expensive beer I've ever bought, which was and I'm going to say this right last time because I got absolutely slated on YouTube and TikTok for pronouncing the name of this island wrong. And since we've got a Scotsman in the room, I better do it right. It was Innocent Gun, their Isla whiskey cask. Which is not pronounced Islay, as I found out to my parents.
Oh yeah.
If TikTok is slating you, you know you've done something wrong.
Got flamed, but I got flamed, but also got about 1,000 people on there, so that was not lost. And that was I mean it was I think it retailed at about £7 a bottle, but it was soon sold out, and I ended up paying a little bit more for it than that. But yeah, that review's out if you want to go see it. But that was very interesting. So the cask was Lefroy whiskey casks, and I've never had a beer that tastes of sea salt before, which is interesting.
Interesting.
But sounds bad. It was actually really good, but there is a price associated with it. So
Yes.
I kind of see that maybe working, like a little bit of saltiness to it. I don't know.
Yeah, it's not like saline. It's just there's a little hint of it, and along with the peat and the smoke and everything else, it works. It definitely works.
Awesome. That sounds like a pretty good week. Sounds like a fantastic week. Stu, how about you? Can you match that, please, and inform us and the dear listeners what you've been up to this week in beer?
Well, I've only got one entry because we've been recording quite quick. I've not had a chance to quickly drink between podcasts, Tom. So I went last night and had Vault City, the Grapefruit Lemonade Crush sour beer.
Okay.
This was one of those exclusives for the Beer 52.
Yeah.
It's all right. I still have that funny relationship with sour beer and drinking it. Like, is this beer or is this Bucks Fizz? What's going on here? And yeah, I reckon if it is a contributor to this sore head I've had all day. But
what's the percentage on that bad boy?
It's only 4. I mean, I could. I'm not going to finish that sentence because I could get in trouble. But yeah, Grapefruit Lemonade Crush. It's, any sour tastes
decent.
Awfully tart.
Yeah.
That was my polite description of it there. But it was drinkable. I managed to consume a lot. It tasted different.
Yeah.
I'm trying to become more educated when it comes to Vault City. I see them popping up more. Well, you see them in all the bottle shops. I just don't have enough money to buy them all. That is the issue. So
that sounds good though. A little walk on the wild side in terms of brewskis. I didn't do too bad. I finally managed to get up to my nearest home bargains, which I haven't visited in at least a year or so. Was happy to see a lot of new blood. Saw some old blood too, but that was out on the street next to a used needle. This is Birmingham after all. No, I saw a lot of new beer in there, and amongst them was a bunch of Hawkshead stuff. You and me had their red ale last season, or the season before. We both weren't that impressed, but I wanted to give them another shot as they seem like a cool company. So I picked up their bitter and their Helles lager, and both weren't too good, to be honest. I think the bitter came out the best, but was strangely tangy. I think it was a bit more hopped up than a usual bitter, which is kind of a common occurrence now. But solid. Helles was just bland, kind of odd metallic taste to it, and it was a lot more bitter, strangely enough, than the kind of sweet or floral tones you expect with a Helles. So struck out a little bit, but definitely open to trying more of their stuff as it is so available now and very cheap. So I might pick up the kind of other couple of styles I saw in HB next week. But yeah, I know you and me had to kind of hunt for that last one a little bit, didn't we? And I ended up sending it to you. We just couldn't find it, but a year later or so, it's kind of very, very easily available.
Home bargains at my end. I checked on them yesterday, and they've got on more Thornbridge in. Was it Jaipur? I think there's another one called Astrid. It's like a purple tin.
Astrid is in home bargains because when I bought these, I bought one.
All right, there you go. And there's bottles of something called Terence.
Never heard of it. Never heard of it.
It's like a big red tea. It might have been
comes from the man drinking stones and enjoying it.
It might have been that brewery we walked past in Glasgow that was like, that took 10 minutes to walk past.
Don't have any memory of that. No.
Nah.
What you're talking about? Sorry, Stu. Sorry to.
Well, move it on.
Okay. So.
Don't make me spit this out.
Shout out to Home Bargains, guys. What are you thinking of the beer? Then let's sum it up for the audience. What's the thoughts, feelings, opinions?
Just a nice, easy drinking, bitter,
solid bitter.
Becoming acclimatized to. 4 tins in.
I bet you are.
I did it for you, Tony. This one's for you.
Shout out to Tone. What about you, Crummy?
I'm thinking the honest review is it's slightly flat, slightly thin, slightly not quite there on the flavour, but all at the same time, it's not offensive.
Yeah, very drinkable.
And it has some redeeming features like that breadiness. It's just don't get too excited. Don't rush out and think it's the best thing because it's not. But I'm happy. I'm happy. I've got 3 more. I say I'm happy. I'm not annoyed that I've got 3 more.
Yeah.
I think it sits up there with those kind of big classic northern bitters, maybe somewhere a bit lower on that list, but still up there for me. So I think it's always a very dependable bitter.
You were more or less raised on the stuff, weren't you?
Definitely, yeah. Stones for life, baby.
That was Cowpool in your house.
So.
Dad, I've got a temperature again. Aye, okay, just 1 tin.
Jump on the stones. I'll sort you out. So, second up tonight, we have Northern Monk's Transient IPA.
I do love the artwork.
The artwork's awesome. Yeah, it looks like definitely get what's the name? Assassin's Creed vibes from it for sure.
All right. Oh yeah, I can see it
for sure. So this is have you had any of the Northern Monk stuff, Stu? I know you haven't had this one, but have you had any of their beers before?
I've had 2. I think I had one at New Year's. It was sort of like a box of craft beer I got at Christmas, and I did try one at a tasting night, but I got that far into the night I couldn't remember. I remember the artwork, but I don't remember the beer. Like, what was it taste like? It tasted like whatever something else would taste like after sampling 8 other beers.
Yeah, was it a bit wrong in terms of the order? Was it?
Possibly. It just got to the point where the tasting was really for 6 beers, and after that, it's like just raking through the fridge. Let's have that one. Okay.
Normally, what happens? Yeah. And you're a fan of this one, Crummy?
I can't remember if I'm a fan of this one or not, because I can't remember if this is Citra hopped, in which case I'm probably not a fan, but I will drink it anyway.
That's the spirit.
Yeah, but in general, I've had quite a lot of Northern Monk stuff, and I think for a brewery that's managed to get into the supermarket and retain its craft credential, they probably do that balance better than anyone else does. Don't necessarily get on with all of their beer, especially their pale stuff. I actually think their darker beer is better, but on the whole, I can't really complain about Northern Monk. I've got nothing notably negative to say, and I think it could potentially fill a large gap that a certain dog-based brewery might leave at some point. So
it's true. They do have I think a steadily climbing amount of beers in there. It seems to get bigger every time I go in the supermarket, which is cool to see, because they seem to have some really cool stuff in their back catalogue. Right, lads, let's do it.
I do remember when we were planning this episode, I sent you pictures of 3 330ml tins, and you had to end up getting this one.
Yeah. You said you said get the most easygoing beer, I think, was your request.
This was not in the picture.
Something
I sent
like
you.
that.
How very Tom of you.
That's the that's the story of the logs right there. Seems to be a recurring trend.
One planning, another one not listening.
Yeah, I won't go that far. Don't know, maybe. I'll ask my therapist, see what he says.
Look at the clarity on that.
The colour's lovely, yeah. Colour is lovely.
like pale custard.
It really is, yeah.
That's got a nice smell to it.
Super fruity.
Yeah, it's like a slap in the face. A tender slap in the face.
Fairly confident that is Citra in there. Does it say on the can? I don't think they tell you what their hops are.
Have you had a bad experience with Citra in the past?
Citra doesn't like me. It just gives me large amounts of Citra gives me a headache very quickly.
Okay.
But I know it's becoming less of an issue the more and more craft beer I drink that has it in. I think it was one of those where I'd normally avoid it, and when you're not doing beer reviews, you can just avoid it most of the time, and then you end up with one accidentally, and it has terrible effects. But I'll probably end up drinking a beer with at least a little bit of it in now, probably most weeks, or certainly every other week. And it's becoming, I still don't enjoy a lot of it, but I can start to appreciate it a little bit now. So
well, thank you for being a trooper, and if you are puking tomorrow, we apologise. Cheers, lads.
Cheers.
It's like a great big sorbet, that one, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's got like a sticky kind of bitterness to it, which is nice. It's nice. It's refreshing. Like it's got like a kind of a nice fruity crush taste to it.
It's like someone's home brewing Mbongo.
A little bit like an alcoholic Mbongo. I'm down with that.
Got just a kickload more grapefruit flavour in it though. Really drives.
Yeah, it's quite dry still as well, isn't it?
It's quite a good representation of US style beers in the UK. Actually,
yeah,
because a lot of people don't necessarily pull that off very well, but Northern Monk do for sure.
I'm going to take my time drinking that one. Move it over here. Just going to leave it there and appreciate it.
Yeah,
because it's quite easy drinking.
Let that one cool down before you take another sip, Stu. So yeah, this is Transient, a hazy DDH IPA from Northern Monk, sitting at a saucy 7%. These guys are an independent brewery based in Holbeck, Leeds. They are not actual monks, I could tell by their haircuts. I'm very intuitive like that, you see, but instead are inspired by traditional monastic, if that's a word, brewing values with a progressive approach to ingredients and techniques. Established in 2014, their beer is brewed across 2 sites, Old Flax store a converted derelict mill where their tap room is based, and a second brewing site on Sydenham Road where they pursue their spiritual goals by not putting their PPs into foo-foos or something else really fun like that. They seem to specialize in strong beers with an emphasis on IPAs, which generally make up their core line, with them expanding into porters, stouts, and pale ales for a lot of their seasonal output. Some fun ones I noticed were an Imperial Stout just called Death at 12%, just Death. Green Heathen, or Green Heathen,
Green Heathen.
A CBD IPA, which sadly is not 4.20%. Mr. Trick there, guys. And Summer of Faith, a hazy rhubarb shandy, which sounds lovely. Right, I think it's time to get to know our guests. A new segment we're starting on the show called Let's Get to Know Our Guest. Crummy, let's do this. Sorry, was that a bit loud? Didn't mean to wake you guys up. Let's get into it. Let's start at the top. Where did the beer journey begin?
Us, we have to go quite a long time ago. I think further back than not most people, because most people I think are into beer probably older than me. But in terms of age, it was certainly pre-legal drinking age.
Of course.
I distinctly remember going to a beer festival in an old leisure centre when I was probably 16. Managed to get snuck into that when things were a little bit less strict in the world. And yeah, I've always had my dad's always been into his real ale, and I think that rubbed off, as it does with a lot of people. And I did the silly teenage early 20s thing, drinking as much Carlsberg as you can, sort of thing. But at the same time, you've all been there. But at the same time, when you were, I guess, drinking to enjoy it rather than drinking to create a mess of yourself, then it was always an interest in real ale. Certainly pre-UK craft revolution stuff. More, I mean, Witchwood was probably my favourite brewery for a long time before they were bought out and stuff like that. So that gives you an idea, I think, of that sort of thing. But yeah, I struggled to define a particular point other than I think in hindsight, going to a proper old man's beer festival at 16 was a bit of a. Now I look back on it, probably wasn't that normal. So there you go.
Bit of an eye opener, though, I suppose.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, you just go around and go, that sounds cool, let's drink that. Or that's at the time, that's 6%, let's drink that, because of course at the time that was quite rare. And you go, geez, that tastes awful. Now, of course, you think nothing of it. But it was interesting.
Brilliant.
Crummy, let me ask you, what is your favourite styles of beer?
The question is really, how many can I list? I think because I start to get a bit carried away with this, because I'll mention 2, 3, 4, and then suddenly panic and forget about the other 4 that I've not even talked about. I'll do it in big generics.
Yes, you go for it.
So British dark beer as a whole, big fan. Stouts, porters, whatever, is just even very rich rubies, that sort of thing. And then I think we have to go over to Belgium for a lot of the other stuff. That's kind of those two. I think if I had to choose, which I resent having to, it's those. But then this is why it's a never-ending question. If we say go to where would you rather drink a beer from, the answer is probably Scotland, on average. So
in terms of craft beer, I think it's
So I like lots of beer. But hopefully that gives some insight as to where my head's at. I'm not that bothered about hoppy beer. I can enjoy it. I'm enjoying this right now. It's fine. I know why people like it. I appreciate it. But given the choice, it's not what I'm going to choose.
More of kind of a malt man.
Definitely.
At heart. That's awesome. Sure. That's awesome. How did that all play into kind of starting the YouTube channel then, or was it the kind of love of beer, or did YouTube come first and the beer came second? How did it all happen?
I guess YouTube came first and the beer second. Only in that I mean, I consider myself an early adopter in terms of watching YouTube as a kind of consistent consumer of individuals' content rather than watching cat videos, if that makes sense.
I do like cat videos.
Well, I do, yeah. But when those kind of first preemptive channels that turned into what it is now, I was a big fan of those back. I mean, I don't know how many years ago we're talking now. We're talking 8-9 years ago, probably, when it was really starting to turn, maybe even longer now. And I've always kind of sat there and gone, well, I really like photography and I like messing around with video editing, although I'm not that good at it and whatever. So I was like, I would like to do a YouTube channel. It's just a nice little creative outlet.
Yeah.
And it's always been one of those things where I probably think about it a couple of times a year and I go, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And eventually I get so annoyed that I couldn't pull off anything I thought was worth broadcasting. I bin it off and try again the next year. And then eventually it was during lockdown, as many people's, I think, journey started into exploring other things, but it was actually the third lockdown in the UK, January 21 anyway. When I was kind of went, just start something and then just do something and then figure out, which is why the channel is called the Crumby Beard, because it's not specific to anything.
Yeah.
It was sit down and just try and make some content and then just find your feet and do something with it. And the intention was always to do stuff largely from home. I don't have the time. A lot of the content that I watch are people going out and doing crazy things and spending hours on the road and all this stuff. So that was just not an option. So it was like, what can I do from home that still achieves these things? And it started off, the first obvious answer was food, but obviously it's very generic, very hard to get anywhere with because it's just a saturated place. And then I happened to stumble across one person. I can't even remember who it was now. I think it was Raggy's channel, who was also from Nottingham, weirdly enough, because I think I was looking up a beer and I was like, oh, people are interested in beer. That's interesting, because I've always been interested in beer, but I always felt like I was talking to myself about it. So I thought, okay, let's experiment with this. Let's see where this goes. And then, yeah, here we go. A year later, and that's pretty much almost exclusively what the channel is. Not entirely. There's still some other odd bits and trying to move into a bit of whiskey content and all that sort of stuff as well, because it's something else that interests me. But as a whole, yeah, it's a beer channel. So
you kind of wanted to put yourself out there creatively, but you didn't quite know what you wanted to do at first.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Saw some channels and thought, I could do that fucking better.
Well, everyone says it. Everyone who gets most people who start a beer channel, I've seen be asked, why did you start your channel? And the answer is because I saw X person and thought I can do that. Whereas mine was more, I was already there, and I was like, oh, but people are interested in that subject, so let's explore that a bit. But yeah, I think everyone sees content and thinks I could do that until they sit down and try and do it, and then you realise it's not quite as easy as you think it is. So
yeah,
but yeah, it's interesting nonetheless.
Now,
sure.
I'm going to hijack this bit. I'm just going to reel it over. I'm just going to talk about me for a moment.
Oh, please.
Yep.
Indulge us.
I just want to kind of let everyone know about my introduction to the Crumby Beard.
Oh, okay.
I'm nervous.
This was
Do you remember that nightclub you were in? It was about 2 a.m. Friday night.
No.
You
this
said
is
some things you didn't mean. You made some promises you couldn't keep.
This
you
was
remember?
on Reddit. It was life pro tips. And it was one of these things where I settle my kids at night. So I'm just sitting there talking to them, waiting for them to fall asleep. And I'm just scrolling through my phone. And
Crumby was in a Godzilla film.
And it was like the life pro tip. And it was like, go on YouTube and like stop looking for mainstream channels. Do a search and then narrow it down to what happened that day. And then more or less just filter it down to something smaller than the mainstream. So I just searched for, I think it was something to do with craft beer, set to new, which had just happened in that day. Then I narrowed it down to the United Kingdom, and I saw a video review for, like, it was Totally Brewed Snoochie Boochie's Jay and Silent Bob beer. And I'm a Kevin Smith guy, and I thought, fuck, I'll watch this. And that's it. Just sat, watched the video whilst waiting for the kids to sleep. I quite enjoyed that. And then jumped across, looked at the other videos, and it was Brewtoon's Weekend Hooker. And I thought, well, I'm going to have to watch this now. And I went on to that. And through just that post on Reddit, just like kind of look for independent channels to support, give them more subscribers. And I thought, right, I'm going to subscribe to the Crumby Beard. And there's two other ones that was kind of similar. And as time went on, I ditched the other ones and I stuck with Crummy. And
we'll find out who they are after this, so we don't publicise it. I'll be interested to know.
And
the better.
Then when it come to planning season 4, I told Tom last December that I want to do an interview season. I want to talk to people of beer, people who talk about beer that I like to talk, like who I'd like to talk to. Crummy was on the list. I know there's a guy on Instagram that opens beer funny ways. We should talk to him. Thankfully, I never pursued that. I messaged Crummy instead, and he was more than happy to accommodate us. So, look, it's like full circle.
It has.
I like it.
It really has. It really has. Yeah. So I was gonna ask you about highlights of your career, Crummy, but I'm assuming tonight is a part of that.
I mean, this is the Oscars. This is about. I mean, any minute now, Ricky Gervais is going to stand up and say something obscene about me. Like that's what's going to happen. But
this is the peak. It's all downhill from here, I promise.
Before I answer that, can we just say, everyone, after they've listened to this, not now, but after they've listened to this, go and do what Stu just said and go and search for some real obscure stuff on YouTube and help a few people out, because people are out there putting hours of work into something that gets 10 views. And it's ever so slightly soul destroying. So go and help those people out, because they really appreciate it.
That's it. I looked back on your videos today, and I think I might have been one of the 18 people that watched your Snoochie Boochies review. And I was just thinking, that was me. I was the one that put another fucking notch on that belt.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I mean, also when you think about it, it's weird, right? How obscure is a Jay and Silent Bob beer, and only 18 people decided to even think about looking it up? Surely there's a market. Surely there's a great market of people who will be interested in that. Even if they're not interested in me, right? Loads of people love Kevin Smith and Jay and Silent Bob. Go and find out the beer, then go and buy it for yourselves or whatever. Yeah, would have thought that, but hey, the algorithm is mean.
I was just so surprised to see it pop up in the UK.
Who put it out? Sorry, that bit.
I think it was Totally Brewed.
So Totally Brewed, the tiny tap room I was talking about that I went to last week. That's the same brewery.
Geez, talk about full circle. Wow.
Indeed, and they are a Nottingham brewery, obviously, where the tap room's here. So
amazing.
Yeah, they do all sorts of obscure names and obscure beers, but they're very good. Worth checking out for sure.
Brilliant. That's brilliant. But yeah, speaking about highlights, is there anything from the past year or so that kind of really made you think this is pretty cool, this whole YouTube beer reviewing thing?
Yeah, so I think the bits that really stand out when you're doing it end up being the things that no one, if you said to people, you go, really, that was the bit when all these other things happened, that was the bit that you put. But it is oddly the small thing. So it's always great when you put a video out and it does way better than you expect and people watch it and you get some good feedback on it and everything else. I did a interview up at Glen Spean Brewing Co in the Highlands that went down really well. People really like that. I did a load of Brewdog content after the controversy. Again, went down relatively well.
Yeah,
big watch time, the rest of it. But I don't know. I always struggle a bit. It did need to be. What I said was.
I think you said fuck Brewdog Stones for life. I think something like that. I can't quite remember what you said, but it was something like that.
Maybe I have to watch it back and find out. But it was helpful for people who weren't in a position to be able to watch the documentary themselves because they weren't in the UK or whatever. So it was basically a summary, which is fine. But it wasn't. It was something because lots of people. We did a live stream watch along of it to kind of a live instant reaction because we didn't know what were coming out in this documentary. And in the chat was a load of people from elsewhere in the world going, we can't watch it. How do we watch it? What's going on? Which you can't really explain properly while you're doing a live stream. So 2 days later, I released a video, which was a summary of the points after I'd rewatched it again and going over. It was kind of a service to those people who want to know what was going on. But ultimately, it wasn't kind of the core reason I started the channel wasn't to just try and say bad things about any particular brewery or person. So it was a bit like, yes, this has done really well on views, but actually that's not that. The stats are nice, but it doesn't necessarily fill me with much joy. So honestly, the two big things that really kind of go, okay, I'm doing the right thing now, is when one of my favorite local breweries, already mentioned, Blue Monkey, started following me on Instagram. And then Monday morning, was it Monday morning? Tuesday morning, I woke up and Black Isle Brewery started following me on Instagram.
Yes.
Awesome.
And I was like, okay, they're two of my favorites all time ever. So now I'm happy. That's just I don't know, a signifier that clearly something I'm doing is right, I guess.
Yeah,
Totally. I get that. Like, I run our Instagram account, and whenever like a brewery follows us, I always fire a screenshot to Tom. Look. Like,
it's always lovely to see. Yeah, it's always very lovely to see. Meeting your idols, I suppose. It's kind of like that, but without the disappointment.
Yeah, that's it. And I've ended up in some odd situations in the last year that you would. I mean, at one point in the last year, I ended up in a VIP box for a motor race as a result of this channel, which was just like
amazing.
Just like a. I won't go. I don't know how much people want divulging publicly. So it was a friend of mine was friends with another big channel with a racing driver and ended up with some tickets to that, which was great. Ended up doing a 24-hour charity live stream up at Lord's Brewing Co in Huddersfield, which was just, basically 24 hours to run amok round a brewery. That was, that was great. So, all these little bits kind of compound. There's been some interesting ones, but yeah, it's those little signifiers that you're doing something right. They're the ones that really, I guess, stay with you for a little bit.
Definitely. Yeah, it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
And that's it. Also, we're just catching you now. Obviously, we're recording this in February, and you've just kind of surpassed 1 year of your channel, and you hit like 500 subscribers, and you celebrated with like a 12-hour live stream, which, I mean, I think we hopped in and out throughout the day, kind of just to see how you were getting on, because I was like, man, this is some feat. Like, sit in one place for 12 hours, and
it's tricky.
Were you drinking for the full 12, or
were
you?
I opened it up in the same way that I opened my channel up originally. It was one of those. I didn't quite intend with the poetic justice of it, but it was. I was sat there going, I can't start drinking at 12 and expect to get through to 12 absolutely unscathed.
Yes.
How can I try and curtail at least 45 minutes? Like you got to pull back every little bit you can.
Yeah.
I ended up actually the first video I ever put out was me eating tea and biscuits for no good reason at all, other than let's start with some content. So I started the live stream with some tea and biscuits.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's it. We're 49 minutes into this recording, and I'm already feeling like warm and fuzzy. I couldn't imagine. Right, 11 more hours to go.
You got to pace.
For the content.
What was the toilet rota like on that one? I'm very curious. Was some kind of catheter situation, or what was going on?
I was not stuck to my seat. I did give myself breaks. I did. I'd set up two 20-minute videos that were kind of truncated versions of reviews for my top 10 beers of that year. Played the first one at the first allocated break and went and grabbed something to eat. Toilet, everything else came back. By the time it was time for the second one, there were so many people were happy to join in and give their time to chatting nonsense on my channel. It meant that I could just leave because there was 3 or 4 people having a conversation. So I just got to so which was great. Once we got kind of past the rugby match in the middle of that, it was a case of there was loads of people around happy to jump in, so I didn't need to sit there awkwardly and go, sorry, I'll be back in a minute, which was great. So thank you to all those people.
Brilliant. That's brilliant.
I mean, Tom, you remember when I was doing that 24-hour video game marathon?
No.
And you phoned me at the end of the night.
I do remember that now, actually.
Yeah,
sorry. I was saying no for comedic effect, but I do remember that. Yeah.
Like, just doing something for like 24 hours. Like, this will be fun. It's something to do with the family. And then it's 2:00 in the morning and you're starting Fallout New Vegas for the 4th time. And you're thinking, why?
And you're like,
I'm-
who's out? 8 Tetley's in. Oh, it's Tom. Let's give him a call.
Plus 10 charisma. Okay. I'm going to be a smooth talking bastard. Let's go. And then Tom phones me from a pub. And I'm like, trying to play my game. And Tom's like, come on, Stu, talk to my friends. And I was like, I'm trying to play Assassin's Creed Rogue, leave me alone.
I'm trying to play Northern Monk, the video game.
On the 360.
I do remember that. Yeah, it was awesome, man. But it's difficult. Yeah, it's difficult.
I made it
difficult.
only 21 hours, so that's like the first time I failed. I like literally the hour I went to bed, my brother-in-law came over to visit to see how I was doing. I was already asleep. The party's over. The PlayStation is off.
Good effort, Stu. Good effort. We appreciate it. We appreciate you. So yeah, let's sum up this beer. What's everyone's thoughts? I'll go alphabetically. C S. Crummy. What's your thoughts, feelings, opinions on this beer?
To say I was adamant that it had citra in it at the start, it's softened quite a lot. And as soon as you kind of get used to that grapefruit bitterness, actually it comes quite juicy and almost playful. It's still a little bit sharp, but it's not. It becomes much more. I think dangerous is the right word at 7%.
Definitely,
It's not a difficult drinker once you acclimatise to it. And just remember, this is a mass-produced supermarket beer,
and it's pretty damn good for.
It's incredible for a mass-produced supermarket beer, which is kind of what I was saying before, which is what Northern Monk do, I think, better than anyone else. So.
No, I agree. I feel like it's almost like a blend between a West Coast IPA and a New England IPA. It's somewhere in the middle. Like it's quite fruity and hazy, but it's quite dry and quite bitter at the same time. So I really, really like it, and it doesn't taste like a 7% beer. I mean, I'm starting to feel like I've been drinking a 7% beer, but in terms of taste, it's definitely doesn't taste like that. Stu, what are your thoughts on the matter?
It was awfully good.
Cool. So,
but yeah, Crummy said it became an easy drinking beer, which only made it more lethal. It is an absolute weapon. I'm glad I'm sitting down.
You said those two words. You brought them together. You didn't mean to, but you brought them together, and I appreciate you saying that. It was great.
It's like a buddy cop Christmas movie in a glass.
That's wow. That's all we need to know. That's all the listeners need to know.
I'm too old for this shit.
So that is it. Another life-altering episode of Pints of View in the history books. We shall relish our brief summary in between Storm Force 10.5 and the less successful but still hugely popular Cold War II. Just please, no scribbled on penises or turn to page 52 for Bush graffiti. Nothing like that. I want this to be something my family can be proud of. Crummy, it's been crummy. Thank you for joining us. I hope you've had a swell time. No, it's been a blast. It really has been a blast, dude. Thank you for coming on. It's at the Lager Logs for our socials, but nobody wants to hear about that. The bearded one. Let's ask him, what should the good people be doing to check out your stuff? What's coming up in the future?
Well, firstly, thank you very much for having me. It's been a pleasure. It's what a great time. 2 fantastic beers, and I've got 3 more of the Stones to go after this. So
you lucky man.
Looking like a wobbly Friday ahead. But for the socials, primary point of contact, the Crummy Beard on YouTube. That's the one to go for. I think if you go to youtube.com/the Crummy Beard, even I think that works. And just at the Crummy Beard on Instagram. As I mentioned earlier, I do have a TikTok account. I don't use it very much, but when apparently I do, people like to tell me I pronounce things wrong. So you can go and do the same on there.
Check that out.
It's a good bracket.
Indeed. There is a Facebook profile floating around somewhere. I don't really use it. Instagram and YouTube, they're the places to go.
Brilliant. in terms of me and Stu. We'll check that all out first, guys, please. But next week, me and Stu, I have no idea what we're doing next week. We really need to start recording these things in order again.
No.
Something with an alcoholic beverage review, or
Sounds
I
about
don't
right.
know. We'll mix it up. Something unique. It might be our best beers of the season. Tune in anyway. That'd be nice of you. Bon voyage, booze hounds. Say goodbye, lads.
Bye, everyone.
Call you out there. You can't say goodbye, Stu, now. Call you out. Go on, say something else.
Cheerio, Tom, you bastard. And both of you are called Tom, so I could get both of you at once. Shower of bastards.
It's like a buckshot. Nice. I enjoyed it.
It's been 4 seasons and we still can't figure out how to end this fucking podcast.
I hope we never do.